Ladies and gentlemen, my name is ESV Dozier Kennedy. I'm an estate surveyor and valuer. Today's topic, we are looking at buying property of a deceased person. Yes, when we talk about buying property of a deceased person, we are talking about buying property whose title is in the name of somebody who is late, who is no longer existing. So, in such cases, it's different from the normal purchase of property. It's totally different. So our topic today is a very interesting one. A very, very interesting one. A lot of people do not know the process and procedures of buying property of this person. Some people are not aware. They just rush into investments, not having full details of what you need to do, what you don't need to do, or what the process you need to follow, the document you need to get when buying property of a deceased person. So it's very important we pay attention to this lecture, because it's going to tell us to some extent all we need to do, all we need to know, the process we need to follow when we're buying the property of a deceased person. It is different from every other sales. Now, going to the topic. When we talk about buying property of this person, we look at it from two areas. One, if the person died testate, or if the person died intestate. When we talk about the person dying testate, we are saying the person died with a will, and that will assigns the property of that dead man to a living person. As I said, dying testate means there's a will, there's a document that shows that this property has been transferred from Mr. A to Mr. B, or from Mr. A to Mr. BC, or Mr. BC and D. That means the person died testate, there's a will. So when you're buying such property, it is easier. The procedures are easier to carry out. As an investor, you inspected the property and you find out that, oh, this property, the original owner of this property is late. The person whose title is on this property is late. And they inform you that there's a will to the property. The property will be assigned to the son or the daughter or the brother of that person. So it is easier for you to buy. All you need to do is to get the documents, the title of the property, in addition to the will. So you're good to go. There's not much complication in such a transaction. As an investor, there's not much complication in such transaction, because at that point where the person assigned the property to a living person, he has given up his bundle of rights. He has given up everything he enjoys in that property to that person he has assigned it, the person he has willed it to. So at that point where the person, Mr. A dies, all his right has been passed to Mr. B or Mr. B and C. His right has been terminated at the point of his death. So as far as you can establish that fact, that there's a will assigning the property and you have the title, you are good to go. It is easier to buy when you are buying a property with a will. And the second area we're looking at is when you're buying a property that does not have a will. We see that those cases, there are a lot of those cases where a man will die. There are a lot of people that dies without writing a will, without assigning their property to somebody, either their son, their daughter, or whosoever. So when you are an investor, when you're going into such investment, you have to be very careful. When you've done your search and you find out that no, the original owner of this property is dead, and you request that do they have a will, and they say no, they don't have a will, then there are a lot of work to be done. We see some cases where a man dies and he doesn't have a will. He has quite a number of children. He has relatives. Some are is a polygamous family. So when you're an investor, when you're going into such investment, it is very important that you are very careful, that you follow due diligence, that you seek the advice of a professional, because the procedure there is much more complicated. So what you need to do as an investor when going into such investment is to first, most important document you need to request for is the letter of administration. Letter of administration is a legal document. It is what the government is what they need to get from the government. There's a legal system that handles that. It's assigning some members of the family, giving them the right to deal on that property, to transact on the property. Give them the right. That letter will give some member of the family the right to sell. So it is not your business as an investor. It is the business of the family to get the letter of administration. So when you are sure they've got the letter of administration, that is when you can start negotiating or start showing interest, or then you can then proceed to buy. The letter, as I said before, the letter of administration is a very, very important document that needs to be provided when you're buying the property of a deceased person who died without a will. All you need to get is a letter of administration. If there's no letter of administration, as a professional, I would advise that you don't go into such transaction. But there are some cases, I've seen so many cases where they will prepare a deed of assignment and they will say, oh, they file the family member, they will list all their names for them to sign. If you're buying such property, I'm not saying it doesn't work that way, but what I'm saying is that you're buying such at your own risk. But when you have the legal administration, you have all the backings you want. You have all the backings you want. Nobody can challenge the purchase. But when you have a case where there's a deed with a lot of signatures, you might not be able to tell the number of children, the number of interest in that property. What about if somebody comes later to challenge you after you have paid for the property? It becomes a problem to you as an investor. You might end up losing your investment because you did not follow the due process. If it goes to court, you might end up losing your investment because the court will ask, do you have a letter of administration? Were you given a letter of administration before you went into such transaction? Now, they have seen some cases where the family will say, no, we don't have money to get the letter of administration. Yes, as an investor, you can say, okay, let me pay 20%, let me pay 30%. When you get this letter, I would complete the balance. Fine and good. But going into such arrangement as an investor, you must ensure that there's a contract of sale that is binding the transaction, there's a splendid transaction, that is binding the transaction between you and the other people. Why I said there must be a contract of sale, it's what gives you the confidence that you are still going to buy that property after you've paid the deposit. Because the truth is that immediately they get that letter of administration, they can do whatsoever they want with the property. There might be so many other offers, and the seller or the family can decide to gazump. They can decide to gazump the price when they get better offer and refund you your money. But when you have a contract of sale, it has tied them down. They cannot do anything on that property. Or if you don't have it, they might decide to gazump. They might decide to sell to somebody else. There's no binding contract between both of you. So as what I'm saying is that as an investor, you have to be very careful when you're buying a property without a will. You have to request for a letter of administration. To cap it up, our topic today, we've talked about two things. Buying property of a deceased person, which is buying property of a deceased person with a will, buying property of a deceased person without a will. We said it earlier that it is easier when you're buying the property of a deceased person that has a will. It's a straightforward transaction. As far as the will has explained who the property has been assigned to. But when you're buying the property of a person without a will, it is where you need a lot of work to be done. You need to follow due diligence. You need to consult a professional. You need to be sure of everything you're doing, the step-by-step process, or you might end up losing your investment. So it's not a matter of, oh, I love this property, it's beautiful, it's lovely, it's what I want, let me just rush, let me pay. It's all about following the right process. So those are the two areas the investors need to look into. They need to be very sure of what they are doing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have another episode. I'll be showing you some documents, what I meant by letter of administration. Also show you some sample of a will so that you will understand what we're talking about. Then we can discuss further on these documents. We can talk more about it on the next episode. I hope our lecture today has been a very huge, made a very huge impact on you. Join us the next time where we'll be talking about other topics. Just keep in touch and still follow up on our social media platforms. Thank you very much and remain blessed. Thank you.